going to get to the news. Former President Trump defended his children over the weekend against the New York State Attorney General Letitia James's lawsuit and said, quote, Ivanka is a very good person. Don Jr., he's a good person. Eric, these are good people. So if there's one thing he's learned from this lawsuit, it's all of their names. According to a new report, President Biden initially worried his student debt forgiveness plan wouldn't go over well with working-class people and told his advisors, quote, the federal government shouldn't be bailing out Ivy League graduates. I mean, at least not until they become bank presidents. You guys, I got Bernie Sanders backstage. I'm going to play to him a little bit, all right? At the Global Citizen Music Festival in New York over the weekend, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi appeared to be booed by the crowd. To be fair, she completely flubbed her solo. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has warned of potential evacuation orders this week in advance of Hurricane Ian. The two aren't related. He just loves kicking people out. According to a new book about his business dealings, former President Trump once received a lease payment in boxes of gold bricks and asked his security guard, Matthew Calamari, to bring them to his Trump Tower apartment. Is it just me, or does every new Trump story sound like a 9-year-old wrote a mafia movie? Forget about it, Calamari. This town belongs to Johnny Pizza. House Republicans on Friday announced their new congressional platform, which featured a quote misattributed to Abraham Lincoln. Apparently, he never actually said Disney Plus is grooming our children. Kanye West appeared to comment on his divorce with Kim Kardashian in an Instagram story yesterday and said, quote, London, I know how you feel. I lost my queen too. It's sweet that he thinks Kim is a queen, but weird that he thinks London is a country. Oh, well, aren't you the Queen of London? In an upcoming book, former President Trump describes New York Times reporter Maggie Haberman as his psychiatrist, or that's just what he calls any lady with glasses. Former FBI Director James Comey announced recently that he will release a mystery novel series. Let me guess, Hillary did it? Or she didn't, or she maybe did, but you're unclear about it? A teen in Canada recently set a Guinness World Record after putting 22 socks on one foot in 30 seconds, all because her father refuses to let anyone touch the thermostat. NYU will offer a new course this fall focused on singer Lana Del Rey's music. To qualify, you must have completed at least 2 semesters of Lexapro. And finally, according to a new survey, more than half of Americans said that they have muted themselves during a virtual meeting to pass gas. Even worse, the other half just didn't. According to estimates from the Congressional Budget Office, President Biden's plan to forgive $10,000 per borrower in federal student loan debt will cost nearly $400 billion, or in student loan terms, $27 a month for 30 billion years. According to new data, coronavirus cases are rising in the UK, maybe because last week the entire country attended the same event. The White House announced yesterday that President Biden will host French President Emmanuel Macron later this year, which is great, but can we say no gifts this time? We noticed you did not have a 305-foot woman, and New York famously has much space, oui? So in 2022, one of our monologue writers were like, enough. I'm going after the Statue of Liberty. Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz announced last week that he was starting his own Twitch streaming channel and tweeted, quote, I'm joining Twitch to bring my America First message to a new generation of voters. Previously, the only way he reached a new generation of voters was on Venmo. Scientists recently discovered vaccine-resistant coronavirus in Russian bats. It's what Putin's calling Plan B. Release the bats. A panel of doctors recommended last week that all adults under 65 years old should be regularly screened for anxiety. Said adults, how regularly? Like once a year, once a month, every day? Should we screen every day? Rolling Stone yesterday published an updated list of the 100 greatest TV shows of all time, and I don't want to brag, but I read the whole list. Not bad. Not bad. 100. Read them all. According to a new survey, 24% of Americans said that they found it very easy to make friends as a teenager, and the other 76% are the people they bullied. A woman in North Dakota was arrested recently after she allegedly brought a wild raccoon into a bar. Said the woman, "Oh, I thought you said it was rabies night." So the premise of Brian, I'll say his name, the premise of Brian's joke is that you would hear a bar was having ladies' night, and you would hear it as rabies night. Maybe that's a symptom that you have rabies. You're home with your pet raccoon, and it bites you, and then like an hour later, you're like, did I hear rabies night? And finally, we just let them all in, guys. We're just finding out with you if they're good or not, you know? And finally, according to a new survey, 78% of animal owners said that seeing their pet when they come home is the best part of their day. Worst part of their day, when their spouse heard them say that. President Biden announced yesterday that his administration will lower the cost of insulin for everyone, regardless of their Medicare status, and not a moment too soon. We didn't make that. That's an actual product. During the same event at the White House yesterday, President Biden pulled out a copy of Florida Senator Rick Scott's 12-point plan to rescue America and said that it could end Social Security and Medicare. Oh, that'll be popular in Florida. What's his next idea? Abolishing visits from grandkids? According to a new book, former President Trump would tell White House visitors that he had a secret bathroom. And visitors would tell him, "Sir, that's just a closet." That's part of the secret. The book also claims that while meeting then President Barack Obama in 2016 after being elected, former President Trump asked Obama how he kept his approval rating so high. "What'd he say?" asked Biden. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell said yesterday that he will support the bipartisan bill to reform the Electoral Count Act of 1887. I guess he still feels bad after voting no the first time. Britain's Prince George reportedly told his classmates, quote, "My dad will be king, so you better watch out." Which you have to admit is a crushing comeback for a 9-year-old. Tag, you're it. If by it you mean the once and future king. New York Mayor Eric Adams announced yesterday that he will launch a chess council to develop more plant-based recipes for public school lunches. Meanwhile, most of the high school students will continue to enjoy plant-based recess. And finally, after receiving criticism from viewers, Netflix removed the LGBTQ tag from its new series about serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer. On the downside, they left the food and travel tag. President Biden today declared a major disaster in Florida, and then Florida, in turn, declared Biden a major disaster. The White House released a 44-page plan yesterday to fight hunger. It's just the Cheesecake Factory menu. Before the government runs out of money tomorrow, Congress is reportedly set to pass stopgap legislation to keep the government funded through 2.5 more months. Is it just me, or is the government always waiting until the last minute to fund itself? The federal government is like a kid running for the school bus with one pant leg on holding a waffle. Queen Elizabeth's death certificate was released today and said that she died of old age, a condition she battled for nearly 30 years. At a recent panel, Texas Senator Ted Cruz was booed by the crowd after he said that the best way to stop school shootings was to increase police presence on campuses. Cruz hadn't been booed that bad since the last time he walked into his house. Hey, family, boo! Republican operatives in Pennsylvania reportedly trying to push the unfounded theory that Democratic Senate candidate and Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman is affiliated with a gang. Even worse, they're trying to push the unfounded theory that Dr. Oz is affiliated with Pennsylvania. The Netflix reality dating show Love is Blind is reportedly casting for a new season to be set in Washington, D.C. Said one contestant, okay, so he's really quiet, but an amazing listener. In a new interview, Tom Hanks said that he made a ton of movies, but added that he thinks, quote, 4 of them are pretty good. And then Vin Diesel said, I've also made a ton of movies. Tom Hanks announced in the same interview that next year he will release his debut novel, and no surprise here, it's called World War II in Space. Maybe a little surprise here. And finally, the airline Virgin Atlantic yesterday unveiled its new gender-neutral uniform policy. Flight attendants can choose to wear either pants, a skirt, or the Chalamet.